Welcome back everybody to another video where I complain about things. Maybe one of these days I'll make a video talking about something I'm looking forward to. I actually was planning on making a video on Dune Part 2, but then the strike is happening and it got delayed until March, and maybe I'll make a video closer to its release date, but at this point there's just more things to complain about, such as the Marvels or maybe even Aquaman, who knows?
I'm the king of Atlantis.
But today, just like always, we're gonna be going over some topics as to why I think this movie is setting itself up for failure. Now, I think there's something to clarify here that I realized I should have clarified in my Five Nights at Freddy's video. I don't know how this movie's going to turn out. None of us can really judge the film until we've watched it, and the movie doesn't come out for a couple months still. This is not me saying that I have some heavenly knowledge where I know exactly what this movie is going to entail. It's all just speculation. Don't take it as factual and don't try to insult me that I'm judging something before it's released. I hope the movie is great, but I think there's a lot of reasons to be worried about it. So anyways, I won't hold you any longer. Let's get into why I think The Marvels is already doomed. Topic number 1. Nick Fury. This is kind of a weird nitpick, and I'll try and explain it the best that I can. It's honestly more of a critique of Marvel's most recent show, Secret Invasion, but it definitely applies to this film still. To make sure we're all caught up, Nick Fury left Earth after the events of Avengers Endgame. We weren't exactly clear when this happened, but then in Spider-Man Far From Home, which takes place directly after Avengers Endgame, it's confirmed that the Nick Fury we see in that film is actually a Skrull, and the real Nick Fury is off-world. That's the general gist of things. I'm sure you already knew that though. Now, like I said, this video isn't a critique of Secret Invasion. If you want to find somebody critiquing Secret Invasion, it's all over the place. But I think it's justified bringing up because Nick Fury was off-world and Secret Invasion promised to do something interesting about that to bring Nick Fury back to Earth. And ultimately, I think a lot of people would agree that Secret Invasion failed at that, and now Nick Fury is just off-world again, like nothing ever happened. It pisses me off that the show basically did nothing. And we thought it was going to. We thought it was going to be huge, especially in the first couple of episodes. But most of the things that were brought up at the beginning of the show were just dropped or reversed by the end of it. It just makes Secret Invasion feel even less significant than it already did after watching the show. I just hope they justify Nick Fury being there because it really feels like he's just shoehorned in because of his connection to Carol Danvers. And if that's the only reason he's there, I will be very upset. The other reason I bring up Nick Fury and Secret Invasion is because in the official trailer for The Marvels, which released a couple of months back, we got a brief look at a Skrull within the trailer. It's hard to tell if we're looking at a different planet or if it's just like some sort of destruction on Earth. It looks like some sort of wave of mud and rubble in the background. It's hard to tell. So anyways, Skrulls are gonna be a part of this movie, which isn't surprising considering the first Captain Marvel film dealt with them and we have Nick Fury back. I guess it makes sense. It's just that between Secret Invasion being disappointing, how they handled the Skrulls, and how they handled Nick Fury, it makes me doubtful that this movie is set up to continue any of these storylines or characters in an interesting way. Like I said, this is more of a critique of Secret Invasion, but this is also a launching point into some of the concepts that we're gonna see in this film. I think you get my point. Let's move on to topic number 2. Disney Plus. Disney Plus MCU shows have been coming out since early 2021. They started off with WandaVision, and now we're 10 seasons deep if you include What If and the I Am Groot shorts. There's a ton of seasons of these shows. It's crazy. Now, originally, the Disney Plus shows claimed to not be necessary in order to understand what's happening in the main line of MCU movies. This didn't really end up being true, if we're being honest. Even WandaVision, the very first Disney Plus show, ended up making significant changes to Wanda's character, which directly led into the events of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. People who just watched the movies might be confused by her motive as a villain. They won't understand the emotional significance of her children's appearance in the film because they haven't seen that play out in the Hex during WandaVision. The point is, they are more significant than we were led to believe. Now, I think we still need to see how certain other shows will tie into the MCU, and we will very soon with some upcoming releases. I think Captain America Brave New World is going to be very telling of how much they're going to lean into the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. Anyways, I don't want to get off topic. How does this apply to the Marvels? The first and more insignificant tie-in is with Monica Rambeau, who was introduced in WandaVision and will now be a significant part of this movie. She is a part of the main trio. Now, she wasn't a massive part of WandaVision. I don't really think it's going to be a huge deal, but it is notable that if you haven't seen the show and you go and watch the movie, you just don't have the same level of understanding of her character. Tie-in number 2 is a lot more significant, with Miss Marvel, who had her entire own show. A show that was not particularly well received by the general audience. Apparently on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like one of the highest rated things in the MCU somehow.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
But the point is, if people haven't seen it, they will miss a ton of backstory to her character. Even just in the trailers for the Marvels, we see Miss Marvel's home and her family. These are characters that have only been introduced in the show. This is a problem for obvious reasons. I mean, even if you look at the streaming data, Miss Marvel had the least opening viewership of any of the Disney Plus Marvel shows, by a significant amount. Notably, it's even less than She-Hulk, which was the show that followed up Miss Marvel and had much poorer ratings. Now again, I need to clarify, I don't know exactly how they're going to handle Kamala's character in the movie, or her family, her home. We don't know how much it's going to tie in. Obviously, I haven't seen the film, right? But the point is, Marvel is taking a character and a backstory that is only in the show, and then using that character and backstory for the movie. And if you haven't seen the show, you're going to miss out. It just seems like a lot to handle, and this actually ties into topic number 3. The runtime. Now, this is something that we talked about with Five Nights at Freddy's, and the rumor that I discussed in that video actually ended up being false, and the runtime is going to be quite a bit shorter than originally rumored. So there's something I need to clarify here. This is a rumor. Right now, nobody knows the final actual runtime of the film. They could still be editing it to this day and up until its release. So if this ends up not being true, don't come for my throat, I didn't do anything wrong. The rumored runtime for the Marvels is 1 hour and 38 minutes with credits included. And if you take out the credits, its rumored runtime is 1 hour and 33 minutes. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Runtime really doesn't necessarily matter. It's not a huge significant point for why I'm worried about this movie, but it is a point that's notable enough to bring up. Some movies function well with a short runtime, but others suffer from it. It really just depends on the movie, but this is significantly shorter than any other Marvel movie that we've gotten thus far. And also just a pretty short movie in general, especially when you tie it in with everything that I already talked about with Nick Fury, the Skrulls, having to introduce Monica, Kamala's family, all of that on top of having a new villain and a new story. That is a lot to juggle, and having a short runtime is just worrying that it will be able to be done properly. I hope they utilize the runtime well, but with everything that we've already talked about and all of the other aspects of this movie, it just seems like a lot to handle, and it definitely has me worried. Topic number 4. Marvel as a whole. It's hard to disagree that Marvel has definitely decreased in the overall quality when you include shows and movies. I can make a whole video on this topic, and actually, if you'd like me to, let me know. I genuinely mean that. As I already mentioned in the Disney Plus section of this video, people aren't keeping up with all of the shows. However, this goes further than that. Some people aren't even caring about the movies anymore. I mean, it used to be the case that myself and many others were excited to see a Marvel movie simply because it was a Marvel movie. They were consistently delivering project after project with such quality that we just got like very comfortable with the movies that they were releasing. Not to say that there weren't duds. Because there were. But each year there were a couple of projects all building and aiding to this grander story. And right now we don't really have that. So some people just haven't even been keeping up with the films. This was obvious from the poor box office performance of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which made only $476 million, which is one of the lowest box office performing MCU movies since like the very beginning of the MCU. But even just talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I am a firm believer that if this movie had released just a few years earlier, pre-pandemic, during the height of the MCU's run, it would have passed $1 billion easily. I mean, at some point, most MCU films were. All 3 of the movies released in 2019 hit $1 billion. Even Captain Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home, which I'm not going to get into this now, but let's just say I will be making an entire video on why Far From Home is amazing at some point in the future. The point is, on top of people not keeping up with all of the Disney Plus shows that are now necessary in order to watch the movies, some people are even skipping out on the movies themselves. It's a double whammy, and it just shows you that some people don't care about Marvel as much as they used to. Here's the thing. Plenty of people will go to watch this movie, myself included. There is still a Marvel fanbase out there that will go and watch anything that Marvel releases. And don't get me wrong, even though I think most things are against this movie succeeding, I still have an open mind. I just don't know how, with a short runtime and everything else it needs to cover, how it could possibly be successful as a film. I want to be wrong. I want to eat my words, but this is genuinely how I feel. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments down below, but in my opinion, The Marvels is already doomed.